Welcome to She Manifests Wealth Formula podcast. I'm Leonor S., and a master of subconscious mind, entrepreneur, and a creator of best-rated course on manifestation, wealth formula. With experience coaching 15,000 plus people, I have crafted a 15-minute formula to solve any problem, aiming to transform health, wealth, and relationships. In this podcast, I strive to showcase real-life transformation stories that bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be. Let's manifest our lives together, because nothing is impossible when we are the conscious creators of our life. Thank you for tuning in today, and let's begin. So, welcome, Ava Johanna. So, I'm so excited to greet you here with my community. And Ava, please describe you. What is something that you want to say about you that will touch people's hearts?
Well, I'm honored to be here, first and foremost. I feel so grateful and so lucky to even have a platform to share my story and my work, because this is something that a younger version of me, even a decade ago, would have never imagined. And I've been doing a lot of contemplating lately because I'm in the process of writing a book and have been thinking about where I was even 10 years ago and how far off the path of alignment I was in my early 20s, and how incredible it truly is to, even within a period of a decade, be able to grow and evolve so much as a human being. And so I'm really excited to just have a conversation about evolution and potential, and like truly how limitless we are today, because I feel like as I've been just reflecting on my own life, I'm like, wow, what a testimonial for how quickly people can change. And, when I was growing up, I grew up in a really affluent neighborhood. However, my family had absolutely nothing. We were evicted from our house when I was 16 years old. And so I grew up middle class, but then had the lifestyle and the comforts and the security that I had grown to be acclimated to ripped away from me very suddenly. And it really altered my entire world. It altered my relationship to my stepdad, to my father, to my mother, to my friends, to myself, to money. And it was about a 7-year journey from that point forward through my late teens into my early 20s, where I really started to, first go very, very, very downhill, but then rebuild my life and do the work that I'm sure we're going to talk about today to create a new reality for myself and to not be victim to the circumstances that I had no control over in my youth, but to be empowered to create a new way, because I knew that that was possible for myself.
Amazing. So, Ava is a seven-figure celebrity breath coach and the founder and CEO of the Academy of Breath. And I'm impressed because the story that I read, that you've been homeless, right? And right now you are a seven-figure business owner. And just tell me, when was the lowest point in your life, and what is the gap between when you were in the lowest point and now when you are at the peak point?
Yeah. So I think that my lowest point would probably be when I was 19 years old. I got a DUI, and all of the circumstances that led to this DUI are a pretty great reflection of how low I had gotten at that point in my life. I had originally moved down to San Diego after graduating high school and got into a sticky living situation that I needed to exit quite quickly, and ended up moving home in the middle of our holiday break, and left without saying anything, and just moved back home and started going to community college back by my mother's house. And it was hard to go back home when I was trying so hard to escape that living situation. At the time, my mother had still not gotten fully back up on her feet. So she had a roommate, her roommate had a son. And so we were living in this 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment in this again affluent area, and it was six of us all together, two dogs. It was just crazy and so dark and like cavernous as well too. And for anybody that knows anything about sunlight and depression, it was just a really hard environment for me to be in. And I had this belief because of what I saw my mom go through that if I ever wanted to be free of the circumstances and the cards that I was dealt, I would need a man to be able to do that.
Mm.
And so I in my early 20s had this really convoluted perspective and priority of just finding a wealthy man that would take care of me because my mom, after she left my stepdad, wasn't able to take care of us. And she was only able to take care of us when she was with my stepfather. And so I had this belief based on what I saw from my mom and from my parents in my teenage years. And that was my only goal. And what ended up happening is that I did not pay attention to the red flags of so many different men that were taking advantage of me as a younger, attractive woman,
Right.
and ended up getting into more sticky situations. And there was this moment in time where I went over to this gentleman's house and he just fed me alcohol, fed me alcohol, fed me alcohol, and then sent me back in my car to drive home, a 45-minute drive. And I got a DUI. I spent the night in jail. And that was such a big wake up call for me that one, I had put myself in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was vulnerable. Yes, I was taken advantage of, but I put myself there
You
because
took
of my perspective.
responsibility, right? You took
Yeah.
responsibility. You know what I want to understand because usually I've been one of Tony Robbins' coaches and I know how the mind works. And one of the things that Tony always teaches is people do not change from the place of the comfort, or they do not change when there is nice to have belief. There is always a leverage
Hmm.
when being in existing situation is more painful than changing something, because all of us, we are afraid. Let's be just honest, we are afraid to change something. We are not going to the next level because we are in our comfort zone, right? Subconscious mind is just living in this comfort. And people say, yeah, it would be nice to lose weight, right? I shouldn't eat some sugar, but they never change. Or it should be nice if I could stop yelling at my kids or my husband, but they keep doing it, right? Up until the moment there is something like the point where I cannot stay here anymore. And what I'm hearing, you had this point. Could you please describe me what was the breaking point for you when you made the decision, I don't want to be there anymore and I need to change my life?
It was literally sitting in a cold jail cell with a stranger who was coming down from God knows what and calling my mom in the middle of the night and having that moment where I could just hear the disappointment. I could hear the sadness. I felt disappointed. I felt so much shame. I blamed myself for all of it. And I knew that I was better than that. And I won't say that it was like from that point forward that like everything just went uphill. It was a slow unfolding. But that was that moment in time where I knew that I had fallen so far away from who I was meant to be
Mhm.
that there was no other option but for me to choose a better path for myself and really get my life together. And
So what
so
did you
it,
do? What were the next steps that you took, that you did, that changed everything in your life?
yeah, so I moved out of my mom's house several months later and moved back down to San Diego. I found new friends, and so it was really community and
Mm.
environment. I
Mm-hmm.
also gave myself permission to not force myself into a circumstance, i.e., school, and pursuing a degree in something that I wasn't passionate about and that I didn't really have clarity around. I think that I had at that point, as many other teenagers do, just go to college and go on this track of society's plan for individuals. And that was when I kind of realized this doesn't make sense and it's not purposeful because I'm not happy here. I don't even know what I want to do with this. So why don't I go do something that I'm really excited about? And so for me at the time, it was getting a job at Nobu and working at this high-end luxury restaurant and being able to be in this really beautiful environment and create new relationships with people in a new city and really letting myself start over. And so that was really the turning point for me. And then from experiencing this new environment, this new community, this new location, I started to explore and have my perspective open to different ways of being, different things to do, whether it was going to the gym or going to a yoga class. And again, it was that slow unfolding of just letting myself be new and be in that uncomfortable situation
Mhm.
of not being within my comfort zone, which I've kind of always done, but it was definitely, I think, as anyone knows, moving to a new city on your own, it always is going to stretch you. But it was the stretching that I needed to really break out of the patterns that I had developed back at home.
So, Ava, you are saying some really great nuggets here. So, the first thing is when you were in this jail and you made a decision, that's it. I'm ashamed, right? I can be more than this. And then you shifted your environment, you change your environment, you change your surrounding. You know how Jim Rohn is always saying you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I completely agree with you because I'm so careful with the people that I let into my life. I was actually doing one exercise where I had to write down some. So, in order for you to understand your capacity of being able to receive how much money, you need to take your top 7 people that you're spending the time with. Then I was putting down their average income, not that I went and asked them, but what I presume that what I think is their income. And then I divide by 7. And most of the times it is exactly how much money people are making. Do you understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then what you did, you went into this beautiful restaurant and you started to see the environment, you started to see something absolutely different. And
Mm-hmm.
you started to raise your vibration and ask from life more. Is it true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a really refreshing and also fun environment to be in because there was so much wealth constantly.
Mhm.
And it was the first time that I was making money that felt sustainable and comfortable and like secure for me. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Oh, sweet Ava, that's so cute, which is so funny because it's all relative, right? One number is huge to one person, another number is small to another person. And so it was the environment I needed to just remember that there's other ways of being and that the perspective and the life and the path that I was on was one way of being. And yes, that reality was true for me for a moment, but the reality that we all have is that we can choose again and we can create again. We can pick a new path for ourselves. We can reinvent ourselves. I mean, at any point in time in our lives, it doesn't matter how old you are, your brain has the ability to form new pathways, meaning you can form new habits, you can form new beliefs, you can form new perspectives, and you can change. I was just watching this incredible documentary about Diana Nyad, the swimmer who swam from Cuba to Florida.
Mhm.
And she attempted it when she was 28 years old, didn't do it. Went back when she was 60 to start training after her
Wow.
60th birthday, tried 5 times. And it wasn't until she was 63 years old that she
Amazing.
ended up doing this 110
Oh
mile,
my God.
60-hour swim from Cuba to Florida. And that has been so inspiring for me this week. And especially when I'm at the gym, I'm like, Ava, keep going.
Keep
If Diana
going.
Nyad can do it, you can do it.
So
But it's
everybody
just
who is
such,
listening, keep doing. It doesn't matter how old you are, right? It's the most important. You never ever give up on your dream.
yeah, you just
Yeah.
keep going. If you don't give up, it's not a matter. of if it will happen. It's just simply a matter of when it will happen. And that's something that I live by every single day. And that fuels me because the only people that aren't able to make it happen or fail, I'm doing air quotes, are the ones that choose to give up. And so I just choose not to give up and I choose to show up for myself every single day. And I know that there's new levels and there's always new levels. I'm sure that you have new levels and opportunities and desires for what your next level looks like as well. And it's the same process every time of just starting to embody, starting to think differently, starting to act differently, starting to believe differently, and show up as that version of yourself until it's no longer just embodying it, but actually becoming it and being it.
Yeah, changing the identity, right? Changing the identity. So, okay, so and right now, what you are mentioning, and I love what you're saying about the fulfillment, about the peace, and I completely agree with you. You can't be happy just because of money. You have to feel the fulfillment, your self-worth. I also believe that the success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. If I wouldn't have my family, I wouldn't enjoy my success in my business, right? So how you came to this point where right now you're working with the celebrities, you have seven-figure business. Those who are right now sitting and on the couch and not believing themselves, tell them what was your way and encourage them to take us massive action.
Yes, I love this. Well, something that I realized before I ever made like a big investment in myself, because I
How much
remember
was it? What was your biggest investment?
the first investment was $10,000. That's not the biggest investment
Okay,
though.
tell me about the biggest one. I want to know
Yeah,
the numbers.
I mean, I invest typically anywhere between 150 to $250,000 every year in my business and on my personal development.
Mm-hmm. Right. We were calculating with my husband. So within last 3 years, I've been investing approximately $300,000
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
my personal development, not in my business, but exactly like going to seminars and, buying all the um, courses and my mentors and everything. Do you have anybody that you are working with, like a
Hmm.
mentor or?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I have worked with my mentor, Amanda Merritt. She is absolutely amazing for 5 years now. This will be 5 years that we've been working
Wow.
together. And at the beginning, it was very much business strategy, helping me to understand the bridge between feminine and masculine energy in business and how to really be the embodiment of my work and how embodiment and energy plays such a big part in strategy. A gap in my story that we didn't discuss is that I was in digital marketing. I led agencies, I built teams, I supported branding and naming all across America. And
That's why
so
you
I
are good
have
with your branding.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But it was a double-edged sword for me in the beginning because I put so much emphasis on it that I didn't think about my energy, my heart really
Mhm.
being in my work. It was just speaking and knowing what to say, but the words weren't landing at the same level as they do now because I really am the embodiment of and walking testimonial for my work. When in the beginning it was kind of like half in, half out. So
Mhm.
I think that that's such an important piece for anybody that probably comes from a similar background as me is yes, strategy is important, but your energy is what people feel. And
Right.
that's what people are responding to. But yeah, I've been working with Amanda for 5 years now. And at first it was a lot of strategy and embodiment. And now she's my spiritual coach, my life coach. And that's the thing that means the most to me. When the
Mm.
strategy is all figured out, the way to get to the next level isn't strategy, it's belief, it's
What
how you
is it?
identify and it's how
Tell
you
us.
show up and it's your
Okay.
energy. And like that's what people, like I said, that's what people feel. So that's what I really focus on now.
So tell me, please, if people, because to change limiting belief, it's not that easy, right? To change your vibration, your energy, you need to do the work. And uh, what do you think is the best way to shift your limiting beliefs, to change your vibration, to hear your inner voice, your soul, what does it want? So what is your formula, success
Hmm.
formula?
Yeah, well, so I think you already know this, but the reason why so many people struggle to create new beliefs and to shift and repattern whatever older, maybe unhelpful habits or belief systems that they have is that they don't feel safe in their current environment. And because they don't feel safe in their current environment, they actually don't have access to the part of their brain that is responsible for cognitive thought, analytical thinking, and rationale. And so what happens is over time, when we're constantly in this environment where we're overstimulated, we're stressed out, we're worrying about money, we're anxious and worrying about the future, or feel shame and guilt about the past, we're sending signals throughout our nervous system and our entire body that we're not safe, even if we wouldn't necessarily use the word safe. I know that for a while I didn't think that I was stressed, even though I was chronically stressed and incredibly
Absolutely.
burnt
You get
out.
used to it, right? It's like
Yeah,
becoming
well,
your new normal.
and it's so normalized in our
Mhm.
society as well, too. Like I
Exactly.
went to the doctor because I had migraines every other week for 48
Mhm.
to 72 hours. And they asked me if I was stressed, and I was working 12-hour days.
Mhm.
And I said, no, I'm not stressed, because I literally did not know that I was stressed because it's so normal in our society.
Exactly. You didn't
So
know it can be differently.
yeah, exactly. And like I thought that that's just life. That's just being an adult. And so so many people are walking around like that. And the trouble is that when we are constantly in that state, the communication between the primal brain and the frontal lobe of the brain actually cuts off. And the only thing that's running the show is our survival strategies. And so even this podcast that we're listening to right now, like this is all being stored in the frontal lobe of your brain for everyone that's listening. This conversation isn't in your primal brain. Your primal brain is meant to help you survive. And so the first thing that we need to do in order to shift limiting beliefs is establish a baseline of safety in the body, a baseline of safety in the nervous system, so that you can reestablish that connection to the frontal lobe of your brain and actually have access to these conversations, those self help books, those seminars in those moments where you feel either triggered or activated or an opportunity come up to create a new way of being.
Right. And you do it,
Through breath work.
the breath work. You know what's
Through
funny?
breath
And
work.
Ava, yesterday I was having a breath work session. So
I
I
love
think
it.
it's and I'm curious about one question. So I've done breath work at least 10 times, and I like how it brings me to a different situations.
Hmm.
But I see that everybody reacts differently. Some are crying, some have, some body reactions. For me, it's very simple. I just see the visions. And it's
Hmm.
kind of, I would want to feel it more with my body. And I know some people are going in the past lives. And so, what do you have to say about that when you want to intensify even more? Like, I cannot describe it, but I want this more intensive, my breathwork session. Why it's
Hmm.
not happening the same as other people?
Well, every single body is different,
Mm-hmm.
and every single nervous system is different. The term bioindividuality exists because we truly are biologically individual, and no two people are the same. So I understand the desire to have these big sensational experiences because it's sexy, it's fun, you feel it. There's the proof there of like, oh my
Course.
God, I'm
I
doing
want to feel the
something.
same way, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, wow.
I would honestly argue that potentially a reason why you don't feel as much sensation as other people's is because you are already doing the things to regulate your nervous system. So you have a higher threshold and a larger capacity for the stress that ultimately that specific breathwork practice is inducing on the body. Because if I'm correct, the style of breath work that you're speaking about is either a two-part breath or a circular breath, where you're breathing into the belly, the chest, and exhaling, or just
Yes.
breathing in and out quickly. Are you
No,
doing it
no,
in
the
and out of the
first one.
nose?
The first one that you said
In and
first.
out of the nose or the
Yeah,
mouth?
mouth.
Okay. So that's just one style of breath. And it's definitely one style that is the most sensationalized, I would say, because of all of the different varying experiences that people can have during these practices. Um, it's an advanced breathwork practice too. And so I do also want to just like add the disclaimer for anybody that either if you've done the practice before and it didn't feel good, that's okay. It doesn't resonate with every single person. And it's not something that people need to be doing all the time either, because it is really intense on the body and the nervous system. Or B, if you do go and do it and either have a really intense physical response or an intense, like you drift off into another realm, it's because you're reaching this heightened state of hyperventilation,
Okay.
essentially. So what you're
Well, I'm
doing
sure nobody
is,
knows about it. Only
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. So it's really what it is you're hyperventilating. And that's the same thing that happens when you're experiencing a panic attack
Mm-hmm.
or you are feeling a lot of anxiety and anxiety attack in the body. And so what it's doing is actually mimicking the fight or flight response. It's activating your autonomic nervous system, your sympathetic arousal specifically, which for somebody like you who has this regulated state, this regulated baseline, it can be this really powerful practice to help you expand your capacity even more. And if we're having a conversation about money, success, opportunity, we want to be able to expand our capacity, right? We don't want to just say, like, oh, I only feel safe and comfortable holding 6 figures a year. If we want 7 figures or 8 figures, it's not just about doing more to make the money, but it's also about regulating your system so that when you get to 7 figures, when you get to 8 figures, it doesn't feel like it's too much. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like it's something that you cannot hold. And so that's the power of more activating practices like what you shared. But like I said, I think that a part of why you're not experiencing as much of an intense physical release is because you have a really solid nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And what it might just take is doing the practice for longer or doing more of the practice, because there's going to come a point in time where your system isn't totally regulated and then you're going to feel more of that physical sensation arise in the body.
Very interesting because my mentor is a shaman. And I just came in November. Me and my husband, we were at Joe Dispenza retreat for 1 year. Oh, sorry, 1 week advanced retreat. And there are 2,000 people, and you can hear, different noises and everything else. So, and I come back and I say to my mentor, I said, you know what? I cannot understand because I do have the visions. I feel that I'm really like calm, peaceful, but there is nothing extraordinary. And what he said to me, he said, Lena, your soul is so old, and you have in your past lives, you have been going through this already. So right now, your body is just not needing this because I'm really manifesting really fast. I just need to think about it like whatever, especially last year, I would imagine having right away within a month, I would have this like a new home, my dream home. Like we sold even a house, Ava, without listing our house. People
Amazing.
just came and they put in the mailbox that they want to buy our house. And we invited them. They offered the price. We said, no, we want a more. And they said, okay, fine. No problem, no challenge, not going back and forth. And it was happening with everything. Like even such a thing. Do you know Marissa Pierre?
Yeah.
Yeah, hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking in the spring, like in 2022, I met her and she said, I want to come visit Latvia. And then I was thinking, it would be very nice to host Marissa Pierre. And guess what happened? This July, she was coming to Latvia. Like I was just imagining. She came visit us. 3 days we spent together. I was hosting her. She was like, and I cannot understand how is this happening. Tell me, what are you understanding from breath work perspective? Why is this happening so easy? Why am manifesting so fast? And how people who are not believing in this, what they can do to help them to manifest things.
Yeah. So I find that breath work is such an incredible tool for manifesting, especially when somebody doesn't necessarily have that like magician type of
Mhm.
energy that it sounds like you have, because so much of manifestation comes down to breaking through the separation that we often create in our mind and in our bodies
Right.
between where we are now and where we desire to
Mhm.
be. And so breath work allows for us to embody the feelings of whatever it is that we desire, right? Because if you think about even this example with Marissa, it was probably this feeling of, wow, it would be exciting to have her here. I would love the connection. I would feel very grounded and at peace. It would just be such a beautiful opportunity for me to be with somebody who I admire and I respect and want to develop a relationship with. And all of those qualities hold an energy and a vibration in our body. If you think about, and for anybody who is listening, if you think about what it's going to feel like when you are at that seven figure or that eight-figure mark in your business, it's probably a feeling of peace, ease,
Mhm.
freedom, maybe a little bit of excitement. And so when you think about being at that level and how it's going to feel to be at that level, what we get to do with breath work is actually begin to feel the feelings now and embody the feelings now. Because when you start to embody a new vibration and a new feeling, a new frequency in your body, it essentially is going to influence your thoughts and then your actions. Because if you feel different, you act different and you think different. And so that's really the gift of breath work, is that it changes and elevates the sensational experience in our body and brings us into the vibration of the thing that we desire to create now, so that we're no longer separating ourselves from what we want and how we want to feel.
I have heard from some people, a lot of people, that they say it's very hard for me to feel being as a seven-figure business owner or eight-figure business owner because I have never been there.
Mhm.
And what's usually happening is that the fear is coming up, the how is coming up, how I gonna get there. Right now, I'm living, let's say, in my small apartment. I'm struggling to paying bills. Like I cannot even imagine how is it gonna be being
Mhm.
seven-figure business owner. So how is breathwork helping in these situations?
So again, you don't need to have felt that before, but I can guarantee if I were to ask somebody, hey, so you want to make seven figures in your business every year.
Mhm.
When you start making seven figures, how do you think you're going to feel? Like what are you associating feelings wise with that? And they're probably going to say, well, I know that when I'm making seven figures, I'm going to feel really secure and I'm going to feel confident, I'm going to feel comfortable, I'm going to be excited because I'm going to be able to do whatever I want, and like all options are going to exist for me. And so you can put words to what you are associating, because you wouldn't desire something if there wasn't some underlying emotion attached to it.
Mhm.
And
It's like the
Vishen
higher
Lakhiani,
self knows, right?
yeah, exactly. Vishen Lakhiani talks about this from the perspective of ends goals and means goals.
Mhm.
Seven figures, that's a means to an end. The end goal is the safety and the security. And so if you actually take the time to get clear on the emotions underneath whatever the manifestation or the desire is, whether you felt those emotions before or not, breath work comes in and creates those emotions in your body, because again, you're either activating your system, so creating excitement in the system, or you're calming your system and creating peace and safety in your system. And so there's a spectrum of how you can use the breath and all of these different techniques, but any emotion we can create and mimic through breath, which is why it's so powerful and why I really believe that this is the ultimate tool for our personal growth and our evolution.
Fantastic. So you are saying also that you are a breathwork teacher for celebrities and seven-figure business owners. Could you share some, I don't need the names, but the most, maybe some beautiful transaction, something that we would want to hear, some example where
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
somebody was and where they are now. Just inspire us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing that people come to me for is that they feel overwhelmed and at capacity with where they're at in their businesses or where they're at with their success, where they're successful, they're doing their thing, but there's some level of sacrifice happening. And there's some level of resistance to what their next level might be because of how they've created the current level that they're at. So it can be as simple as a client coming to me. I'm thinking of one in particular who shared with me, I am incredible in my business, but it takes away from me being a mother. It takes away from me being a partner. And I really don't want to have to choose this or that anymore. And I've stabilized multiple six-figure months, but I know that I'm meant for more. However, I don't really want to create more if it's going to come at the same cost of how I've created the right now.
Mhm.
And so what we've done is used breath work to support them in creating safety and helping them to really regulate their system so that they feel like they have the capacity to hold what they've created, but then also using breath work to quiet down the noise and ask themselves, well, what are my values? What is my intuition guiding me into if I slow down? What does it look like for me to create my next level and attune my level of embodiment and how I see myself and my identity to the lifestyle that I really desire to create? And what do I need to let go of in order to let more in? And so, what was so cool is that even in a single session, especially for individuals who are already starting to do this work, the downloads and the intuitive whispers, I like to say, come through so loud and clear. And I'm thinking of the specific client. After we had this session, she had her biggest month in business, I think secured over $500,000 in sales just after a couple weeks after doing less, having the time of her life, and being able to take this information that she received from herself. Because again, I'm not giving strategy. I'm supporting my clients in awakening
Right.
their own inner brilliance.
Because they have the
And
visions, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guide the breath, I guide the conversation and steer the
Hold the
conversation.
space.
And it all comes from within. It comes from the work that they're doing. And so it's so cool to see. And what I have experienced having supported people who are at the very beginning stages of business and multi-million dollar business owners is that the work works no matter what level you're at.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. So Ava, just one more time, let's get back to this wealth formula step by step from homeless to the point where you are right now, making seven figures and working with the celebrities. So the first was the leverage where you said, never, I'm ashamed being here. Then getting in the environment of this beautiful restaurant, then digital marketing, right?
Mhm.
The strategy where you learned this strategy. What are the next steps till this point?
Yeah. So I started in the digital marketing space and got to a point where I just kind of looked around and was like, I don't love these companies that I'm doing business with.
Mhm.
They're great people, but the topics, the industries are just so boring to me. They do not light my soul on fire. Why am I not doing this for myself and on topics that I really love and that I'm really passionate about? And so I started an Instagram back in 2016
Ooh,
before the algorithm changed and got all
yes.
convoluted and wacky.
That's a good time.
Before there were Instagram stories, before
Mm.
there were Instagram reels,
Well
I
done.
started talking about mindfulness and yoga and wellness and started really as a content creator within the wellness and yoga space. I was teaching yoga at the time, breath work, meditation. I was working with Aloe Yoga, Bandier, all of these top brands in the wellness
Amazing.
space. I started my podcast that year or a couple years after that. So I really came at it from this content creator perspective, which was really incredible for my coaching business and eventually creating the Academy of Breath. Because for me, in the beginning of my business, it was all about community, it was all about connection, storytelling, really developing relationships and building trust with the people in my world. I wasn't asking or selling anything at all. I was just simply providing value. And so within 2 years, I was able to transition out of freelance work that I was doing for wellness brands into my podcast, content creation,
Amazing.
working with brands, and then eventually into coaching full time. And so it was such a fun journey and process of dipping my toes into this world and then diving headfirst after that. And it wasn't until 2019 that I decided to go all in on my coaching business.
That was the
And
COVID, when started COVID 2019.
right before COVID, it
Right
was
before
January
COVID.
2019.
Yeah,
So we didn't start, the world didn't shut down in America, at least until March of 2020.
right.
So I had a year's head start.
You had a year. I
Yeah,
didn't have that
exactly.
year. Okay. And
So 2019, I launched my first one-to-one coaching at all 10 spots filled within a week. And
wow,
again, it was because I had been building my brand for 3 years
exactly.
before that. And so I did a year of coaching, a year of or that was year two of podcasting. And within the first year of my podcast, we had over 250,000 downloads. We were on the top 10%
Wow, amazing.
spirituality podcasts. And I was working in LA as a yoga teacher, and it wasn't until like end of 2019 where I was just burnt out with the in-person and received the download yet again to take all of my work online. So January 2020, I had gotten rid of all of my studio classes, teaching in LA, working with these brands, and went all in on my coaching. And then March 2020 was when the world shut down. And that was
Did
around the
your
time when
business become better? Because for me, I started my business 2019. And
Mhm,
I really resonate with you. For those who are afraid to start doing something, do not just start, take the first step, because I was
mhm,
also just taking my phone and sharing what I know, because I was working
mhm,
for Tony Robbins back then. And I was like, okay, I will just share the knowledge. And people
mhm.
also, it went viral. People started to follow. They wanted all my programs. And Ava, I remember when I launched my course, I made my first 40,000 in my first launch. And I was like, is this even possible? And,
Mhm.
and then, and of course, it was a good time because everybody was at home. They didn't have anything to do. How was it for your business?
I mean, everything exploded.
Exactly.
We were
Mm,
set up because it wasn't like I was just starting my business in 2020. I'd been going for years at that point. And
right.
so I had a community, I had relationships with people. I also hadn't really been creating digital offerings at that point. I had, launched and tried some, but didn't really go all in. And again, wasn't totally
Mhm.
in the like online coach energy
Mhm.
either. There was a lot of other things that I was pursuing while living in LA. And in 2020, I mean, things were crazy back then. That was the first year that we launched the Academy of Breath. And before that point, I had like 7 or 8 people inside of my group program that I had ran before the Academy of Breath. And that was like the first big launch that I had where I was like, it'd be cool if maybe like, I don't know, 13 people were to join
Yeah,
AOB. And we
yeah.
had 64 people sign up. And since
Oh,
then,
congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. Since then, we have not slowed down. We've certified over 600 people. We run the program twice a year, and it's been really incredible to just see the hunger and the thirst for breathwork and meditation continue to increase since we launched in 2020.
Well done. And you see, also looking at your experience at the beginning, you were just providing value.
Hmm.
When you were showing up in Instagram, you didn't expect that now somebody will buy, because some people, they are going and they are just asking, who will buy from me? And you
Hmm.
can feel the energy, but you were there sharing your lifestyle, sharing the value. And when you came and offered something, everybody wanted to buy. Actually, probably they didn't care what they are buying. They just wanted an energy from you, right? The part of you to know your success story, or how you are living the way you're living. Is it true?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because There are more breathwork certifications on the market now. And I do think that we do it very, very differently than most certifications from what I have heard from past students as well as friends who have gone through different certifications. We've created something that is unlike any other certification on the market. And yet, at the same time, the reason why people sign up, they always say is, I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I wanted to be in your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's full circle from the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
our conversation when I
Exactly.
said your energy is everything.
Mm. Absolutely. I usually see the way I work on my energy. Of course, I'm doing everything, but I'm meditating a lot. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also I have created like 40 meditations for every single, like for limiting beliefs, for wealth, for money, for forgiveness. And this is the way I'm getting grounded. Plus, I'm doing some breath work. And I think probably everybody will have a different way. But the most
Mm-hmm.
important to understand that we are not living in the world where you need just do. We are not human doings. We're human
Mm-hmm.
beings. And when you just do, then you are getting exhausted, tired, you're close to burnout, you're losing, your family or whatever. And then when you are being, this is the only way how you can inspire other people to be the best version of yourself. And that's why now I know I will have like two very intense months. You know what I'm doing? I'm scheduling massages. Then I'm looking where I can go and do something just so that I keep my energy. I want to be calm, I want to be peaceful, and I want to enjoy this process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing that you are doing and giving people this resource um, to work on themselves so
Mm-hmm.
that they can achieve their wealth formula, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Ava?
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I love that you do that. And I think that, sometimes in society, it's funny because I was just staying with my boyfriend's family for a month and every single week I'll go get a massage or I'd go to the Ritz-Carlton and just use the spa facilities if I didn't want to get a treatment. And I get my blowouts and my nails done, and I treat myself and I nourish myself and I pour into myself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually every single day. And so often, the feedback or the reflection that I get from people who don't value it at that level is, wow, you really take care of yourself, or wow, you really, you know, pour into yourself. I don't know if they say pour into yourself, but people reflect back that I am a little over the top with all aspects of my self-care. And to me, there's no other way of doing it because I have a lot of responsibility. I hold a lot of people in my world. I have high-level people and public figures coming into my spaces who also have a lot of responsibility. And so my energy, how I hold myself, how I feel is of the utmost importance. And I think that people forget in this entrepreneurial journey that they are their most important client. And that's
Absolutely.
always been the most important thing to me because I cannot give an overflow if I'm not receiving an overflow. And part of me receiving an overflow is the responsibility I take to take care of myself.
Absolutely. And you see, especially when I've been working with a lot of also successful seven-figure business owners, and they say, I don't have time for this. And I'm like, how come? And again, we can go back because the society is teaching you to work really hard. If you
Mm-hmm.
do not work really hard, then you are not valuable. And they are afraid that the subconscious again is saying, then people will undervalue me. And only I
Mm-hmm.
can achieve if I push and work really hard. And I say, no, no, it's the other way around. If you are
Mm-hmm.
doing your old way, you're going to have exactly the same results. So you
Mm-hmm.
must do the other way. And this other way is starting letting go of control, taking care of yourself, working less. Like when you say, do you have any hobby? No, I don't have time for this. I said, no, no. You're having now your hobbies, and you will see that the things will start to change and shift because vibration is changing.
Yeah. This is honestly one of the most important conversations that we can have, especially for high performing women. who have been conditioned to think we have to prove our way into our success. We have to hustle, we have to fight tooth and nail to get to the next level. It's not sustainable. And it's also creating conditional success. I am only successful if and when I perform. I am only successful if and when I'm hustling. No, no, we have to create a new way of being. And that can be so uncomfortable for people, right? Because it's like,
Absolutely.
this is all that I know and all that I've been reflected. And what if I lose it all? What if it all falls away? What if it all burns to the ground? And that's the
Exactly.
stories that I see happen so often with my clients. But we can't experience a new way if we're not willing to, as we said earlier, get outside of our comfort
Mhm.
zone and intentionally, deliberately create that new way and believe it with every single bone in our body that that gets to be
Absolutely.
the way for us.
Yes, 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 yes. And I think also you cannot understand before you have been in the place where you hustle 24/7. I think you
Hmm.
need to go through that stage where you say enough is enough, and then you know
Hmm.
you can. Do you agree with me? Otherwise, you cannot understand that it can be easily, because you need to know, okay, I don't want to go back there, because
Yeah.
me and my husband in 2009, we built 7 restaurant chain in Latvia,
Wow.
and it went really successful. I was working 24/7. But you know, Ava, what was happening? When I would go on vacation, I would get sick.
Hmm.
Like I would be in the hospital, I would go to the doctors all the time because I was so much under the pressure that my
Yeah.
body just let it go when I was there in the sun, and I never enjoyed it. And then one day, my daughter said to me, Mommy, you are all the time working. You are all the time on the phone. And that was a wake up call for me, this leverage point where I said, no way, I don't want this
Hmm.
anymore. Now
Hmm.
I need to change something. And now I know I do not work more than 20 hours per week. I know that, I'm only working on my zone of genius, but I had to go through this experience. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to know what I want. Firstly, you know
Hmm.
what you don't want, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you're going to the place where you know what you want.
Yeah. The human condition is to experience, and a lot of that experience is being and finding clarity on what we don't want and what we do want. I wish that conversations like this could wake something up inside of people before they get to that point. And that's why conversations like this are so important, because I truly wish that no one would have to get to the point of having these
Absolutely.
breakdowns in
Mhm.
order to have the breakthroughs. But like we were saying earlier, and in a lot of Tony's teachings, we do have to experience the pain in order to find our purpose. And sometimes it's the pain that's pushing us forward before the passion grabs us and then
Most of the
helps to
time.
move us forward. And so, yeah, I agree. I wish that it was different. And I hope that more conversations like this can just wake people up gently before they ever get to the point of looking around and feeling like, wow, this isn't it. Because I got there and I threw a big old bomb into my entire life to rebuild. And I would have preferred to have never gotten to that place, but obviously no regrets because it's given me
Otherwise, you
so
wouldn't
much
be able
wisdom.
to teach it right now,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Otherwise, you would be just teaching from the book. But right now, you are teaching from your experience. And I think it's so much more valuable.
Yeah, it's true.
So very nice, Ava. Is there anything else that you want to tell to our listeners that they need to know?
Mm, I think just coming back to this idea of our individual wealth formulas is remembering that success is so much more than just your bottom line. And true success, in my eyes, is when we have created our version of balance, and the scales are always balancing in different ways of fulfillment, freedom, financial prosperity, joy, passion, creativity. That is what we should all be aiming for through our work and through our lives because we do have this one, I always quote Mary Oliver, this one wild and precious life.
Mm,
And for me, when I'm asked, what am I going to do with it? I know that I want to live full out and not just live to make money, but live to truly live.
that is so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you
So,
for having me.
yeah, of course. If people want to find you or learn more about your products, please tell me where they can find you.
Absolutely. So my Instagram is Ava Johanna, AvaJohanna. I always
I
say
like her
Johanna because
Instagram. It's
thank
very
you.
nice.
Thank you. It's pronounced Ava Johanna, but not everybody knows
Mhm.
how to spell that. So Ava Johanna.
Mhm.
And then my one of my companies, the Academy of Breath, is where you'll find anything breathwork related resource wise. And then if you want to get in touch for any other high level support, you can always just reach out to me, send me a DM. Our website is academyofbreath.org and my personal website is avajohanna.com.
Thank you so much, Ava. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for being so vulnerable because uh, speaking about those slow moments, it's not easy, right? It's emotionally not easy, but you're a true walking example what people can have that you can change. And that's why I was so excited having you on this podcast because I wanted to show that the people who have been homeless and really in the lowest points, they can change their life dramatically. And only by doing, walking, making mistakes. And you have, I think you have tried everything, right? You've been like working in the
Yes.
restaurants, like doing this. Then you said, then I didn't like this. And then I tried this. And that's the whole point because people, they want a perfect formula right away. Liana, but I don't know what is my passion. I said, you cannot know because you are not walking the way. You just have to start to walk and the way will appear. And this is how
Hmm.
we are finding our passion usually. You try, I like this, and then the universe is guiding you and saying, oh, this lady is committed. I gonna cooperate with her. And here we are, serving so many people and helping them to come back to themselves and living this life where success is not only about money, but it's about being happy, peaceful, fulfilled, at the right energy, at the right vibration.
Hmm.
True. I think we understand each other.
Yes, we do.
Thank you so much, Ava. I appreciate you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting with you.
Thank you.